What is BEDMAS, or PEDMAS, or BODMAS, or BIDMAS? These are all words that you probably hear in school depending on where you come from. So let's just go over a couple of these. So if you're in somewhere like Canada, you might hear a word like BEDMAS. If you're maybe somewhere in Europe, you might hear PEDMAS instead. If you hear, I'm not sure where you'd be from, but some places, perhaps in America, you hear BODMAS. And sometimes even you'll hear BIDMAS. So what the heck are all of these words, and why am I writing them up to, top to bottom instead of left to right? Well, typically with BEDMAS, the way this is broken down is B stands for brackets, E stands for exponents, D stands for division, M stands for multiplication, right? A stands for addition, and you can probably guess S stands for subtraction. And this is what we call the order of operations. So if you have a large expression that you need to solve, this is the order in which you apply the operations. Now, obviously, D in all of these cases are all going to be division. M is multiplication for all of them. A is addition for all of them. Subtraction is obviously always S. But these first couple letters you'll see change a little bit. So P, what is a P? P stands for parentheses. Parentheses is another way of saying, what you might hear being called round brackets. Because for a lot of people, brackets is referring to square brackets, right? But P parentheses, B brackets, we're referring to these things, right? Some of you know them as parentheses, some as brackets, that's okay. So this B and B, they're obviously brackets as well. Now, what about this line? We have E's, we have O, and we have I. Well, E, as we said, is exponents. But what is O? Well, O is what they call orders, and that means the same thing. It's referring to the exponent on a number. I, it's referring to the same thing. I is what they call indices. So either you call it indices, orders, or exponents, it all refers to the same thing. So if you have a number like 5 squared, right, that's an exponent on the number 5, right, 5 squared. That's an example of what we're talking about here. Now, no matter where you're from, the order is not going to change, right? No, even if you have, even though we might have different words for describing what these things are, it all means the same thing. Further, the only other thing that I'll mention is that if you have division and multiplication, they can kind of be interchangeable. It doesn't really matter which one you do first. Same with addition and subtraction. Those two are also sort of interchangeable, right? You could do addition first or subtraction first. It doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. Now, with this in mind, now that that controversy is out of the way, let's look at some examples. So let's say I have 3 plus 2 minus 1. Well, we can either do all of this at the exact same time, say 3 plus 2 minus 1, figure out what that is. Or you can do one operation at a time. So for example, 3 plus 2 is 5, right? So 3 plus 2 minus 1 is the same as 5 minus 1. And then 5 minus 1 is 4. So typically if you have lots of operations that are the same, or plus and minus, because I said those are interchangeable, you just kind of work left to right and start applying them all. So 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 minus 1 is 4, right? So these two kind of simplify to 5, and then that negative 1 just stays the same, and then you combine these to get your answer. So we're going to go through that similar process for all these questions. Now, what if I have 3 plus 2 times 6? Well, you might be tempted to just work left to right, say what's 3 plus 2, and then multiply it by 6. But we have to remember the order of operations. Division and multiplication comes before addition and subtraction. So we have to multiply these first before I can add this 3. So 3 plus is going to stay just like that, but then 2 times 6 is 12, so I write 12 like that. So again, we always do multiplication before addition. So what's 3 plus 12? Well, that's just going to be 15. Nice and simple, right? Now what if I have 3 plus 2 times 6? Basically the same question as before, but now I've introduced this set here of parentheses or brackets, right? So what do I do with those? Well, that's the first order, or that's the first operation in the order of operations is brackets. So what that means is I do everything within those brackets or within those parentheses first. So what's inside those parentheses? Well, I have 3 plus 2. So I have to do 3 plus 2, which is 5, before I can multiply by 6. So now that I have that written out, I can multiply. 5 times 6 is 30. Okay, let's do another one. Let's say I have 2 squared times 5 minus 1. So again, order of operations. What comes first? Well, brackets or parentheses. We don't have that. So what's next? Exponents. So if you notice, we have this little exponent up here, right? We have 2 squared. So let's apply that exponent first. So what is 2 squared? Well, 2 squared is 4. So you have 4 times 5 minus 1. Okay, what's next? Well, next would be division and multiplication. We have multiplication in our question, so let's multiply. 4 times 5 is 20 minus 1. 20 minus 1, that's equal to 19. And now you're done. Okay, let's do another one. Let's say I have 2 minus 3 times 6 plus 4. Now we have these sets of parentheses, so we can go ahead and do what's inside the parentheses first. So 2 minus 3, that's equal to negative 1, times 6 plus 4 is 10. So I have negative 1 times 10. You could also write this like, negative 1 times 10. You don't need the brackets anymore at this point. Negative 1 times 10 is equal to negative 10. Okay, let's do another one. Let's say I have 3 plus 4 divided by 2. So I have addition and I have division. If you look at your order of operations, division obviously comes before addition, so we have to do our division first. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So this part here simplifies to 2, and you still have that 3 plus on the front. So 3 plus 2, that's equal to 5. A couple more here we can do. Let's do 12 divided by 4 plus 3. So again, division comes before addition. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So I have 3 plus 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. Okay, last one. Let's do 6 plus 3 squared minus 2 times 4. Throwing a little bit more at you now for this one. So first things first, we have to do our parentheses or our brackets. So 6 plus 3, because that's inside the bracket. So 6 plus 3 is 9. So I have 9 squared minus 2 times 4. The next step is always exponents. So 9 squared, what's 9 squared? Well, that's going to equal 81, right? So I'm going to have 81 minus 2 times 4. Next is multiplication. So 2 times 4, that's going to equal 8, right? So I have 81 minus 8. So what is 81 minus 8? Well, that's just 73. And that's your final answer. So hopefully that was enough practice to kind of get you used to the order of operations and applying them when solving an expression. But I encourage you to practice more, maybe some more complex questions as well. Order of operations is something that you really want to get familiar with and comfortable with, and just kind of make it second nature to you, because you're going to be using it in every sort of branch of mathematics. It's going to be everywhere. You want to get to a point where you're doing it without really thinking about it. So definitely practice these, and you'll get more practice doing it as you do other types of math as well.